Greetings, fellow DC superfans. Tiki here.
And Bluedragonfive.
After getting educated in all things DCAU Batman, I've decided it's time to embark on a journey to the Arctic to learn about Superman, the animated series. Aiding me along the way is Bluedragonfive.
That's right, folks. Like Jor-El, I'm serving as Tiki's pre-recorded guide through Superman the Animated Series, with the goal of shedding light and showing Tiki the way to better understand the history of the last son of Krypton.
Let's fly to the Fortress of Recaps and talk fun and games. Alrighty. Okay, so Dragon, our homework is done. We have recapped through the 3-part series premiere. All really solid episodes, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like you kind of have to get the origin stuff out of the way. You kind of have to set up the Lex Luthor of it all. That's done now. We can have fun. And my God, this episode lives up to its title, Dragon. This episode is a ton of fun. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. I honestly think this is kind of like a perfect way of like, okay, we got all the Krypton stuff out of the way. We got all the Smallville stuff out of the way. We set up Lex. Now let's really just dive deep into like the crazy Silver Age nonsense that Superman can be. And I had a lot of fun, Dragon. This was a really, really good time all the way around.
I hoped you'd like this one, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
So I did have some fear of like this is too dark for Superman, but
there is some element of darkness to this, but if anything else, I think kind of the weirdness and the sort of like playful energy that this has on top of being dark, I don't know, I think it fits really well. Like I said, I think it's a really great kind of like, okay, we got kind of like the prerequisite stuff out of the way. Now let's kind of dive into like how weird Superman can be, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Let's see. We got Kogias in the chat really quick. He's saying, earlier today, I was listening to Dragon, Tiki, and Jacob's top 30 90s cartoon show rankings. And the funniest part is when Dragon gets mad at Jacob for ranking Superman at 23.
Didn't even make 20. I'm just saying,
All right. So, yeah, Dragon, what background can you tell us about this episode?
All right, so this was directed by a name you haven't really heard before. This was done by Kazuhide Tominaga.
Mm.
Now, he was as you can probably tell, a Japanese animation director. He actually started as an animator. He worked on Tiny Toons, so that's kind of how he enters the Bruce Timm fold of it all. Because we all got our start on Tiny Toons, which then led to basically getting the green light for Batman the Animated Series and onward. So Tiny Toons always been very pivotal to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he worked on Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, and even again as an animator alone, the Castle of Cagliostro.
Oh yeah, not surprised about that one for sure.
The point this guy gets around. He's animated with some of the finest. He's an animator with some of the finest animation companies all over. And then I want to say, I don't know if this is the first time he directed, but this is a very early time he kind of went from animator to animation director. So this was big for him. We had a writing duo on this. So these guys have worked together before. And they worked on episodes that we've liked. At least episodes I've really liked from Batman the Animated Series. We had Rob Skier and Marty Eisenberg. They worked on one of my all-time favorites, His Silicon Soul, the robot.
Oh yeah, that's really good for sure.
Weird fun fact, just coincidental, I assure you. Before talking about this episode, like I think maybe a week back, when I went to my comic shop, I got a loose Funko, and it was the Hard Act Batman. It was just like I saw it, like, yes, I want this.
Nice.
Anyway, So did His Silicon Soul, and appropriately for a little factoid in this episode, Lockup. We'll get there, how that ties in. Mm-hmm. So the studio worked on this. Tiki, it was not Coco.
Oh, really?
No, it was not Coco. It was not Dong Yang. It was basically the other studio you will hear in combination with Coco and Dong Yang. Very special studio, TMS. This was a very early. Not the first, but the first for Superman. The one of the big TMS episodes. TMS is basically the top tier. Second to Spectrum, I'd say TMS is like the animation studio in the DCAU. They did the finest episodes. They did not just no, I say the finest episode. I mean that just like in some of the great episodes, but also they did World's Finest, so it's appropriate either way. But
Uh-huh.
they the first one they ever did was Two Face Part One, which had the amazing animation, the big Two Face origin moment. So that was them. Most famously, they did Feet of Clay Part Two, which had the iconic morphing effects, which have inspired the new Clayface movie that's happening.
Sure, sure.
And Over the Edge, that was them as well. So TMS, they're the secret weapons. They've gotten around. They've done that's basically where we got the animation director from. He was one of the TMS go-to guys. So that's kind of why TMS is the animation studio on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so not a whole lot of background here. That's why I kind of leaned heavy into the animation studio of it all here. But basically, the goal of Superman the Animated Series was to show how one of the goals of Superman the Animated Series ultimately was Superman's biggest weakness as a character. One of Superman's weaknesses as a character historically has been he does not have the rogues gallery of, say, a Batman or a Spider-Man. He of the big three, he always kind of his rogues kind of languished over time, and he had good ones. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing that's going to top Lex Luthor, but it's just the fact that like Darkseid technically is not a Superman villain, so you had
Right.
slim pick. You had you can count on one hand the amount of good Superman bad guys versus like several with Batman, Spider-Man. But he did have supervillains. They just kind of fell by the wayside, and they kind of made in each adaptation of Superman over the years. They popped up because you have to draw from somewhere, unless you do the George Reeves route, which is just businessmen in suits. That Superman just lifts by the scruff of their collars, and I always love that George Reeves Superman lifts them like an infant, like they can't they're struggling. Like what are they gonna do? Holds him up there anyway. So the idea is a big impetus of the show is let's take the classic Silver Agey kind of Superman, 50s era bad guys, and let's really make them cool. So Toyman was one of the big primary examples of this very early on. Toyman was a very early Superman villain. I think there's like three Toymen in the comics, essentially two that matter. And essentially, he's created in the 40s. He's very much he's a one gimmick wonder. Okay, it's a guy who uses toys as his, mode of evil.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot to go off of there, except for as I've kind of hinted at, he's kind of the most toyetic of the Superman foes in that regard.
Oh yeah.
So basically, they decided let's do a DCAU take on Toyman as basically our baby steps into the big leagues. Where I think of all the Superman episodes, this is kind of the most like a Batman episode before we get into like full on just kind of things that feel full on Superman. This is basically let's do a kind of a Batman the Animated Series kind of slant on a kind of a Superman.
Kind of have that structure to it with the villain who kind of like there's a mystery involving the villain and there's some sympathy there with the villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So there's definitely applying, again, like I said, they're kind of taking the things they learned on Batman and just kind of rolling with and then going in a different direction as it goes forward. But we're kind of playing in the safe sandbox before we really dive into, okay, we're going to make Superman work and make our definitive kind of takes on Superman. But again, starting with a character that no one really cares about and as kind of a blank canvas was kind of a perfect way to start that. Kind of like, in a way, kind of like what we had Mr. Freeze. Because to be fair, this really did define the character going forward. Not unlike Mr. Freeze, but Toyman was kind of made cool again after this. Put it that way. He kind of re-energized the character a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's the thing. So, like we had with the other villain who was in this episode, very appropriately. Again, the old men in suits, like Bruce Timm's impetus was, we got to avoid doing the old men in suits. So what they did here is, okay, we're just going to use the one definitive old man in a suit that Superman fights in. We're going to feature him in this episode. He'll be in the show, but we're going to condense it to one. We're going to tie him in to the more interesting character. We're going to splice that boring element of Superman together with a reinvented element, as
I honestly don't even think that element is boring, and I kind of feel like that element kind of like makes Toyman more interesting.
No, it does. That's what I'm saying, Tiki.
Yeah.
Beforehand, you would have just done these elements separate, but combining them to kind of make one kind of improve the other and vice versa. I think it really helps, giving them a vendetta. Like, okay, well, let's just tie together these two on their own historically with Superman too.
Especially with some really cool editing in the exposition in that scene, which we'll get to, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So the point being, we pull out all the stops in our storytelling here. In terms of Toyman's look, they were at San Diego Comic-Con.
Very fucking classic Batman the Animated Series design.
So you're gonna love how this came about. Okay, so they're at a San Diego Comic-Con probably during the Batman years, like a little bit before this, and basically there was this guy there who had a ventriloquist dummy named George the ventriloquist dummy, who had a head just like Toyman. And that was kind of like, yes. So Bruce Timm just kind of filed that away. He's like, we should use that. So just kind of reinventing the look of Toyman, who traditionally he was just like a guy with red hair, and he wore like a very plaid 40s, early 50s kind of looking suit, and he would ride a pogo stick. That's all he really had. There was not a lot. Traditionally, he was bouncing around. He had like a yo-yo or a pogo stick. He was just very, there was just nothing there. Like I said, he was very much, basically, Superman had a bad guy who was like the ads in the back of the comic. That's essentially what Toyman was. Okay, so also, in terms of our big foreshadow here, we don't really get into the heart of it here, but plant the flag. We set up Intergang. We don't give the name of Manheim's organization and what he's going to tie into big time, but not just like a technological mob of sorts. They're called Intergang, and that's kind of where his bread and butter's come from. He hasn't quite found it yet. He's about to get there, but he's kind of like on the fringes of it. So they'll get into that in the show. I just want to plant the flag that we are kind of slowly but surely setting up our big Jack Kirby stuff with a Jack Kirby character that is Bruno Manheim. So we're getting that Kirby in there very subtly in season 1. It's getting there. It's going to go by season 3. It's wall-to-wall Kirby.
Cool, nice.
All right, so okay, let's dive into it. Well, at least we have comments we should highlight now.
We have a few comments here. Let's see. Kogia says, I like that the animated series brought Brainiac in the first episode and Toyman as early as the 4th episode. It's not just Lex all the time. And indeed, it's kind of funny. It's like, you're right. Like, I feel like the Rogues Gallery for Superman, like, yeah, it's not as extensive as a Batman or a Spider-Man, but like, I feel like it's a lot more interesting than, like, off the top of my head, let's say, like the Captain America or the Incredible Hulk Rogues Gallery. Like, I definitely think it has its place, and there's a lot of interesting characters. I think the problem, as Kokias pointed out, is that the media just keeps going to Lex all the time. Don't get me wrong, Lex is awesome. I mean, we just got arguably the best Lex Luthor we've ever had on screen with the James Gunn Superman, but it is nice to kind of explore more, because I definitely think there's a lot of potential here with some of the more kind of campy villains that we have. Kogias also saying, feel like Toyman would work better as a Batman villain than a Superman villain because of his lack of powers. And his gadgetry, too. Yeah, he does kind of have a vibe of a Batman villain, for sure.
You know what's funny about that, though? We had that Grey Ghost episode where we had Bruce Timm essentially as the Mad Bomber, who was kind of a proto-Toyman.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because he used the toys as the weapons, and he had, like, the whole toy collection. It was just Bruce Timm, like, my toys at the end.
All right, so we start the episode in a warehouse.
Yeah, like, again, it feels like Batman. We still have the traffic.
It feels like Batman, yeah. All right, Dragon, I got to tell you, I fucking love the physics of, like, the bouncy ball that, like, bounces all over the place but still destructs stuff in its wake.
It's like the most terrifying version of Follow the Bouncing Ball.
Yeah. I like, just right off the bat, it's very, very visually satisfying.
I love in the animation direction here. I love how we block the scene with Toyman emerging from the shadows. We do it a couple times. He emerges from the shadows. He's got the ball. Seems very innocent. And because I have a message for Manheim, and the thing with Toyman, Bud Cort does the voice of Toyman. He does a wonderful job. Bud Cort's very underrated. He's a really good actor. No one ever gives him credit for this, but he it's almost kind of like an evil Paul Rubens of sorts. It's kind of it's kind of the vibe.
I can see that. I mean, the whole character kind of has evil Paul Rubens energy.
Yeah, so I love he just comes in very like again like in the middle of we have like an inner gang like a proto inner gang heist going on. The hideout in a warehouse. I have a message for Manheim. He's dropped and his message is wordless. He just drops the ball and it just goes and have these deadly ricochets and essentially and I like that we don't spell that. It's all about as we've kind of hinted at Tiki so far. A lot of subtlety in Superman the Animated Series, where it's not just explicitly said, but you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ball is operating off kinetic energy, as you kind of see visually, is like building speed as it bounces around and gets, and they end up getting trapped in like the armored car that they used for the heist. And Superman swoops in and he awesomely like claps the ball. It brings the crooks to the police. So our transitions are pitch perfect this episode, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So Lois is in her like she walks up the spider, one of the regular crooks here, and she and basically this leads to the park where we meet Bruno Manheim. Bruno Manheim. So Bruno is full.
We talk about Bruno.
Yes, this Bruno we do talk about.
I
So this is Bruno, ugly
like
man.
how it's like with this scene, it's almost like kind of just like a casual conversation.
Yeah. So this is Bruno Ugly Manheim. His nickname is Ugly because he's basically he was a Jack Kirby creation. He is voiced by Bruce Weitz. Now Bruce Weitz was a lockup from Batman the Animated Series. We're using the same voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Saying I think he did a really good job here. And basically, if we're gonna have essentially one definitive mobster sort in Superman the Animated Series, we need to be somebody good. And I think Manheim is kind of he basically is kind of like the less successful Rupert Thorne. That's kind of the vibe that I got off Manheim here, where he is a public figure. He is kind of like he's keeping the criminal enterprise kind of under wraps, or at least in control. Like the media is kind of on to him, but he's opening like a park in the name of the kids.
Right.
I love that Clark Kent's there. It's like doing.
I really like that too. I think this is a really great episode for the Clark Kent of it all. He doesn't have a ton of screen time, but like that whole dynamic with him and Lois, no, forget about it, Smallville. This one's mine. It's classic Dragon. It's classic Superman Lois dynamics right there.
We have that runner of the whole you want to share the whole sharing the byline thing. Basically, if you want to know, you're gonna have to share the byline, which they don't want to do. So Lois is basically she's on the story. She's grilling Manheim. Clark just very coincidental. I think Clark's being very truthful as you would imagine. He's there genuinely covering the city beat. He doesn't really know about this whole Manheim connection. To Lois shows up and she asks him about the Toyman. Like I said, Manheim very kind of proverbial George Reeves foe, but kind of with the Jack Kirby swagger, which we never had in that show. Which again, he's going to be getting cutting edge weapons, which he hasn't gotten yet. When he does, that's going to be a huge connection for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So we have the armed. So amidst this little interview, where Lois is not going to get anywhere really. We have these armed toy planes attacking the place, and I love the detail of Clark Kent saving man. The planes. I love seeing Clark Kent just as Clark and not as Superman save Manheim. He like shoves him out.
Yeah. That's definitely a very memorable kind of bit early in the episode. Is it's always cool to see Clark Kent get in on the action for sure.
So classic Supermanisms here. We got Clark saving very inconspicuously. Jimmy Olsen with the camera in the midst of the action. So Lois stops Clark from going after Manheim, and she in quotes saves him by she shoves him behind a thing where of course he would have been fine technically, but she saved his cover, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So Manheim he ends up getting his he ends up evading getting shot here. Superman, I think Clark kind of cleverly saves Manheim's butt that gets stuck in the playground tubing with his heat vision as he fries the planes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like the fact that it's at a park that's like a children's opening because it feels very much like appropriate for the toy. Again, our set pieces with the Toyman, even though he's not in the scene. Again, we're surrounded by childhood and everything, which is symbolic.
It also just feels very lived in from a world building point of view. The fact that because when you think of Metropolis, you just think honestly, Dragon. Some people can kind of it is almost like a Coruscant of it's just a big city and nothing else. But it's no, that's really not true. There's a lot more to Metropolis than just being a big city. And this park does kind of serve as it's not necessarily like a stand-in for Central Park, if you will, but it's a good kind of reminder that there's more than just tall buildings in Metropolis.
Well, this is going to sound dumb, but it looks like a nice park before it got shot up.
It does, yeah.
So with that, so here's the thing. I kind of threw out the Mr. Freeze comparison, but the big reason I throw that out there is because thematically, like we have in Heart of Ice, we have Ferris Boyle getting the humanitarian award, which is very ironic, and of course he's ruined Victor Freeze's life, right?
Uh-huh.
So here, Bruno Manheim, again, he took away Toyman's childhood, and we're at a place where he's trying to give positive childhoods to the children of Metropolis. So,
but he's doing it in a very kind of like faux philanthropist kind of way.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, I like that Toyman's vendetta it's felt through the episode, and you do have sympathy towards what he's going for, especially when Manheim's up to no good, but he's getting all the adulation. But Manheim, we make no bones about it. Manheim's a scumbag. He's a scumbag he's a scumbag in an olive green suit.
Yep.
All right. So this is great. So I love that with our connective tissue. It's a very well plotted episode. So Lois, wrote the Daily Planet. She wrote up her article, and she's kind of like poked the bear here, where she writes an article. She talked to a police psychologist, and she made a very unwise decision, just printing exactly what the police psychologist said, which is going to tick off the depraved maniac. So she basically like irritates Toyman, so now she's on his crap list.
Mm-hmm.
Solid transition of her reciting the article to him like reading it, desperately seeking external validation through antisocial behavior.
Well, I mean, like you said, there are a lot of really good transitions here in this episode. I think that's kind of a high point of the episode, is just the editing.
Yeah, it's very strongly done.
Mm-hmm.
So we have not a giant mechanical spider, but we have a giant mechanical rubber ducky.
Yep.
So it attacks Manheim, and my headcanon, we don't see it because Superman intervenes. My headcanon, based on how this duck looks, is that the plan was the duck will like open the mouth and like eat Manheim to take him to the evil lair. That's what my assumption is for how the plan was supposed to go, and the bubble thing was plan B.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guess, though. So anyway, so we have the rubber ducky taking out Manheim's yacht. Superman steps in. He attacks the duck. In this fight,
the duck is also kind of like very Batman. It definitely gives off like Danny DeVito Penguin vibes, obviously.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh.
So let's see. So then Toyman is waiting with the awesome bubble wand. Bubble, toil and trouble. So it's knockout gas. Again, Toyman is basically Toyman's like a very vengeful ghost who is out to get Manheim. I like it. We're kind of building on, okay, man, Manheim must have done something really bad to this guy.
Uh-huh.
So the duck ultimately is kind of, I have to wonder I don't know how much of this is maybe intentional or not, but it feels like the duck is kind of ultimately a distraction that allows the Toyman to get away, which would make sense in a world where you're a human man wearing a mask. You can't take on Superman, so you're going to need a distraction.
Right, for sure.
You'll need to have a trick up your sleeve. If we learn anything from Batman going up against Superman, you want to have a trick or two up your sleeve going up against this guy. All right, so Lois, this, Bruce Timm knows how to animate, and Bruce Timm knows how to design an attractive-looking woman. Let's just say that. So we have Lois with a towel on her head in a robe, and she's. It's a rare look at like kind of casual Lois Lane, but it's very stylish. I love the idea of Lois outside. Like we use like the recycled outfits a lot. It's an animated show. Everyone has like their set outfits, like the cartoon. Like everyone has like a bazillion things of the same suits. In the closet or the same dresses because we don't want to animate new outfits all the time. Like Lois has like two outfits in the entirety of the show. Clark, I think, maybe has like one alternative suit color. It's about it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's kind of so I appreciate these little moments where we give them like alternative outfits. That's nice. And also something I never thought of until re-looking at this episode. This is going to sound weird, but I think it kind of tracks. Lois is going to be dressed up in like this doll outfit later. And I think in a way it's like we're trying to say, okay, so we don't want to spell it that Toyman probably undressed her. She was already, kind of in that state.
Right. That's a good point. I do love that outfit for Lois, by the way, the toy outfit.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into. Really quick, Dragon, we got Teddy in the comments. He's saying, Superman, your greatest enemy is a clown. Batman, bro, don't even start with me. One of your enemies is a puppet.
Or to paraphrase Kevin Conroy's delivery, a puppet.
A puppet? Teddy also says, he attacks the duck. I love this universe.
Yeah.
Also, Dragon, I want to bring something up with you really quick. So Dan Murrell, he actually came out today with a really, really great video ranking all the Superman movies. And it's not just the theatrical ones. It's all the animated ones, too. And Dragon, apparently there's one, I forget which one it is, but there's one where Kevin Smith has a cameo where he's specifically talking about Superman fighting spiders or something.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about this?
Oh, absolutely, Tiki. Yeah. That's from Superman Doomsday. So Superman Doomsday was the first stab at adapting Death of Superman only in one movie. And again, it was pretty, I like it. It was the first direct-to-video animated movie that they did that was like the first PG-13. It was the first time they ever did that. And, Kevin Smith, because, again, they're doing Death of Superman, which, of course, Kevin Smith Superman Lives, had a lot of involvement in. They have a scene where Superman does fight a giant mechanical spider. And Kevin Smith comments on
like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Exactly. So Kevin Smith, a thin Kevin Smith, which is now relevant. So it's kind of,
it's like The Simpsons, Dragon. It predicted the future.
Much like that, he just kind of like, giant mechanical spider, something along those lines. And it's actually Kevin Smith doing the voice, so he kind of shows up, and it's funny.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just a plug for that Dan Murrell video, Dragon. If you haven't seen it, it's very in depth. It's about an hour and a half long. I would highly recommend it. He talks in detail about all the animated Superman movies and obviously all the other like live action stuff as well, of course.
All right.
So, anyways,
all right. Okay, so point being, Lois, she gets a
hold on. We got Eli here. He's saying Superman would take down Saw in an instant. You got that right, man. You got that right.
Oh, by the way, I should mention this too, because Kogi then goes on to say I like Superman Doomsday as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that's kind of relevant, besides the mechanical spider gag, so in Superman Doomsday, the way they do the mechanical spider is Toyman is in that movie, and he is operating the giant mechanical spider.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, no, seriously. Great. Now I will mention. Oh, I'm going to mention this.
I didn't even mean for that comment to tie in that much. That's funny.
So here's the other thing too. That Toyman. Now, mind you, this is like creepy and all like the classic, kind of like ways that we're used to having the animated series. But Toyman that we have here, that Toyman in that movie, the skeeziest and creepiest Toyman you've ever seen. John DiMaggio plays him, and he plays him very.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
He plays him so creepily, and it's like, the design on him too is going to make you. It's like one of those.
I'm terribly sorry because this guy is kind of just like my go-to for like villain voice acting, but I could totally see Michael Emerson doing an amazing Toyman.
Oh, of course. I mean, Emerson could play the shark from Jaws, man.
Yeah, you need to see Lost, buddy. You need to see Lost to really understand what Emerson can do.
You need to see what he did in Evil.
Fair enough. Well, I guarantee you it's not as good as Lost.
I don't know. You should see the weird, crazy stuff they made him do in Evil.
We'll see.
Anyway. Okay, let's see. Okay, point me. So Lois, she's at her house. She gets a knock at the door, and she opens this doll. It's a Princess Nighty Night doll. And I love this.
Flowers.
Please be flowers. God. Anyway, so the little doll activates. I love this. I love the pixie dust effect, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. Oh my God! From a toy design standpoint, that's like the coolest thing.
Featuring pixie dust that actually puts your kids to sleep.
Yep. Okay, so she gets knocked out. Then we have this awesome giant dollhouse reveal. And I like that we set it up too. Or Toyman was in kind of a little breakfast nook area. So I love the idea he's built on a giant essentially we learn later on it's in his home, the barn that he was the barn that his father owned as a kid. That's where he's setting all this. He had this giant barn space.
You know what? By heart of hearts, it's still a warehouse.
I mean, obviously it feels like it feels like a warehouse. I still like that we explain where he got this real estate from, though.
Sure.
No, you're right though. Point Warehouse or what have you, we build like a giant sound stage as like a multi-tier dollhouse, which is I think is like one of the coolest visuals. And
There's a couple things in this episode that really remind me of James Gunn's Superman, and this is one of them because the visual of the dollhouse kind of reminds me of the cells in the pocket dimension.
little bit, yeah. So it's just a great idea that again in this like dollhouse kind of like layer, it's kind of like a home within the home. But again, I love it's like false manufactured and toy like, which just fits. And Lois kind of comes to, and she's wearing this outfit. My favorite detail about this outfit, I love the fact she has like the fake doll hand, like it's like a rag doll hands. Like,
right. I noticed that.
But she's wearing like little Johnny. She has like Johnny Bravo mittens, essentially.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
If you look at the early Van Parvel, like that first season of Johnny Bravo, when Van Parvel was kind of experimenting, you see like Johnny Bravo occasionally have like the mitten hands. That's exactly like. Anyway, she's got like the rouge or like the blush on her, and she's wearing this baggy Raggedy Ann doll outfit. So she wakes up.
One of my favorite shots is when the Toyman and Lois are like walking away, and we get like a wide shot where they literally just look like two dolls.
Yes.
You know what shot I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the wide shot where he walks up and he says, like, "Can you come out and play?"
Oh God!
It's like,
Miss Lane.
Toyman's so cool in this episode. He's gonna pop up again. It does not hold a candle to how great this episode is. I'm just
kind of like Baby Doll.
Well, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean the second Baby Doll episode was a departure from how great the original Baby Doll. It's not that bad.
Sure.
Anyway, just like this is like iconic. That's like okay.
Of course.
All right, so Clark is this is where we get into the really cool editing stuff. So the age.
Yes, I love this editing, Dragon. It's so cool.
So Clark is searching for a link between Manheim and Toyman. He's at the Daily Planet. He's with Jimmy, and
this is what I'm talking about when it comes to Clark Kent, Jimmy Olsen interactions, Dragon. This is exactly it. It's so good. It's exactly what a Clark Kent Jimmy Olsen scene should be.
And you know what's great? You don't
There's
need a lot.
One thing we need more of in the James Gunn Superman stuff. It's Clark and Jimmy scenes.
That's the wonderful thing about Clark and Jimmy is that you don't need a lot. You just need to feel that friendship. You need to feel the camaraderie. You just need to feel like, Jimmy's around. They hang out. That's all you need.
This is going to sound kind of dumb, but Jimmy has, I mean, I don't know. You probably agree with it to some extent. Doesn't Jimmy just have a real raw, unstoppable energy in this scene?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say he's very Ron. I mean, Jimmy at his core is very much Ron Stoppable.
Absolutely. Yes.
Just with red hair. That's the main difference.
Sure.
Also, no naked varmints in his.
I love that Rufus was basically like the prototype Perry the Platypus in a lot of ways.
Pretty much. I mean, more or less. Yeah. All right, let's see. So, his point being, so Jimmy lends an assist here. And this is nice. So this I completely forgot about. There's like a little detail on the rewatch. You're kind of like, oh man, that's really nice. So Clark's still kind of new to the Daily Planet at this point in the show. So Jimmy's like, oh yeah, we have a computer system. Let's show you how it works. So it's showing up. Jimmy is a '90s kid. He knows how to work the computer.
Of course he does.
Like
everyone knows that if you grew up in the '90s, you don't just know how to work the computer. You're a fucking computer genius, Dragon, and you need to make a career in computers.
Yep.
I'm not projecting about what my grandma expects of me at all. Seriously, that's always been an issue with her. She thinks I'm some sort of fucking genius just because I grew up with the internet. I'm like, no, Grandma, sorry, but everyone in my generation has about as much knowledge as I do regarding the internet. I'm not special.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. So here's where we get into the edit. So when we pull up the computer here, we cross-cut the sequence between Clark Kent's investigation using the database of the Daily Planet, looking into old articles and stuff, and Toyman revealing his backstory to Lois over breakfast, in quotes. I love that. He's made her pancakes, but essentially won't have a lot of luck cutting the pancakes because she's wearing like the mittens.
Right.
And he pulls out this awesome backstory pop-up book, which fits his MO perfectly. And it's the warped POV of what happened and basically what we're seeing. Basically, we're fact-checking with Clark in the meantime. So Clark's giving us the actual, and it's not, and again, it matches up exactly, but it's still like the vendetta applied to it that we have with the pop-up book. So before we get into the editing. I'm sorry. I know you're frosting them out for this.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I just want to mention though how iconic this whole backstory with Toyman is, and how really cool this is, and how it really kind of like really impacted the character. So Toyman after this, he really became a legacy character where like I said, there have been multiple Toyman, not a whole lot, but there's been essentially 3. And this was the first time I want to say this show was the first time we ever did the father-son component, the whole Winslow shot Senior and Winslow shot Junior.
Mm-hmm.
So, which pretty much got incorporated, Toyman, the gimmick character that was Toyman to make it more interesting. Where we get the Supergirl show on the CW, which in the first 2 seasons, like most of the CW shows,
I've heard good things about the first. I mean, like you said, most
Yeah.
CW shows, but specifically Supergirl. I remember
Yeah.
Supergirl got a lot of hype in the first couple seasons.
And honestly, in the later seasons, there were still good elements there. Supergirl didn't have like a dramatic drop off until maybe like the last season, but it wasn't like bad. It was just it was most interesting in those first 2 seasons.
Sure.
Anyway, so with Toyman, they did they kind of tied in like the Winslow shot Toyman along with like the younger, Nakamura Toyman, who basically was like a good guy version of Toyman, who's like a kid, versus the evil version one. So the idea is that character, his father was the original Toyman who was the villain. He was trying to be better than his father. So we don't get that without this kind of giving us the idea of like making him a legacy character, which is really neat.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So the backstory itself that we get kind of in the cross gun here is that Winslow shot Senior. He was a humble toy maker who wanted his own factory. And Manheim acted as kind of a mobster and loan shark here. And I love how we pull out the little things that pop up, give him like devil horns and everything. He's like cartoonishly large and big and everything. He had one condition. You got to use, basically the condition was when we cross-cut the Clark. They used the toy factory as a front for multiple illicit operations and racketeering for Manheim's operations. So basically, it was kind of like the thing we've seen this in other places with the mob elements like Daredevil and stuff, where you have like a front man for the operation. Even like Breaking Bad, it's like the laundry for Gus Fring. They have like the guy on the book for the laundry if anything ever happens.
Right.
So Senior was the fall guy, and that was essentially why Manheim allowed it. In my headcanon, it doesn't really spell it out. My headcanon is that the basis of the factory was this barn. This barn was maybe being transformed into a factory, like the location that they're at now, and that's why we have all the toys there. It's a guess. It's not verified.
Makes sense.
So Senior was a fall guy, and he ended up doing 10 years, and he died before parole, which is very sad and gives a very justifiable, cause to why Junior, he's now the Toyman, why he wants vengeance. And Bud Cord, wonderful performance throughout all of this as he lays it on his side of the edit. He's playful yet creepy, and you get the idea he's this traumatized kid who, he respected his father. He loved the passion that the man put into his work, and just he's got this revenge at his heart. And he's disturbed, but like the DCAU and the Batman animated series villains, we have that sympathy for our bad guys. This kid was put into foster home after foster home, and he was like an unwanted toy, as he puts it. Getting my childhood back.
We're all just trash waiting to be thrown away.
Well said.
That was fucking Lotso, Dragon.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So he's Anyways, we have this great line where I'm getting my childhood back with a vengeance. Yeah. So overall, I thought that was just a really good, it's a really wonderful sequence of like this demented pop-up book backstory where it does elicit sympathy, and we do not have a lot of time with Toyman to really get all this. So the fact that we kind of cram it in and somehow it works.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Toyman, in his demented, warped way of seeing things, and we set this as a very unstable individual. Toyman wants Lois to document his revenge. He doesn't want to hurt Lois. No, on the contrary, he wants her to document his revenge on Manheim and report it as like a hero story. So it gives her like this almost like like the little wax paper toy back in the you would write on the thing, and you'd have like it written on like the little black thing underneath the paper.
Sure.
Look, this is a legit notepad, but the way it looks feels like that toy. It feels like the old wax paper, writing thing.
A little bit, yeah.
Which I bring, like, we had that in Toy Story. That was what he took his notes on in Toy Story, one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Manheim is strung up like a marionette wearing prison stripes. Just looks really cool and very appropriate given what he did to his father.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So he's threatening him, and he's like, "Hey, when I got friends, buddy." And of course, all these awesome tin soldiers would look like a firing squad. And he's like, "On the other hand, you want to make a deal?"
Right. Right.
No, he's not making a deal. This is so dark. And again, kids WB for you, kids. They're gonna.
The family picture.
It's the darkness of the subtlety is, I think, what makes this bit sing, where we don't really get brutal or violent with it. He puts a blindfold on him. Oh my god. It's like he is so doomed.
Right, right.
You're not, and Lois like, you're not serious. Deadly serious. Playtime is over. So Lois, she topples over the firing squad like a bunch of dominoes, and then we have the creepiest bit of Bud Cord's performance. He throws like this demented tantrum, like, "You broke my toys!"
Yeah. And what I like about that is that it's kind of like out of sheer, like, it's a very childish reaction,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
That's
really
like
good.
he's the emotionally stunted man-child. He is a man-child in the scariest sense of the word.
Totally.
You spoiled my fun. So Superman finally swoops in, disarms the Toyman. Little boys shouldn't play with sharp objects.
I fucking love that moment, Dragon. I fucking love that moment. I mean, tell me that's not fucking just quintessential Superman right there, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Tim Daly is doing so far. Tim Daly is doing such a great job of making He's doing his own Superman, but it's like he's taken he's taken the mold of George Reeves, but he's made it his own by adding just kind of like it's almost like a fusion of George Reeves and Christopher Reeve in terms of like it's the Chris Reeve smile and charm applied to like a George Reeves kind of the man of action. Like George would swoop in, he would like bend the guns like on an instant.
No, you're right. It does feel very much like like you were saying with the whole like him being very stern with the with the criminals. Yeah, it does feel that way for sure.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and again, he still has like that very earnest charm. It's like again, it's just a beautiful fusion, but Tim Daly absolutely doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he swoops in. Little boy shouldn't play again. We get very minimal, which feels very George Reeves Superman too. We have Clark Kent run around for most of the episode, almost like the Incredible Hulk show. We have like 2 Superman scenes or like 2 Hulk outs. He shows up twice.
Mm-hmm.
So Toyman, he pulls out the dopey dough.
And this is the other thing that kind of reminds me of James Gunn's Superman, Dragon. It reminds me of the whatever the cyber kinetic shit that gets in Superman's throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the nanites.
Yeah. Where it's basically just like it's totally consuming him, and he has to just kind of like fly out of there.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Again, debatably, James Gunn does his homework. I'm not saying he pulled from this, but I'm saying he may have pulled from stuff like this.
For sure.
So this is a really the animation on this dopey dough, TMS doing their Clayface thing right there, buddy, right there. It's TMS magic. Right. But I love that we added like some great layers. It's not just like an all-encompassing goo. It's if anyone touches it or tries to get this off Superman, they are going to die. It's a lethal biogenetic organism. This thing's a living thing. It's literally a toxic symbiote, essentially, is what this thing is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lethal biogenetic organism. The skin contact is fatal, and it will not stop until it asphyxiates the victim, as in it will consume and maybe even poison Superman if it gets into his lungs. God knows what happens. So I love that Lois like, no, Lois, stop it. It's fatal and skin contact. Take cover. He tells her to take cover, and we do this awesome, very Christopher Reeve move where he does like a little tornado to tornadoes all the goop off, and like Manheim's like dodging it like the Dickens.
I love that.
Well, but Manheim's like slipping over him. Oh god, he does not want us to touch him. So I still have a free game. So Toyman, all these wind up, very Mario looking bombs show up, and he disappears into the shadows, which is awesome. Superman flies everyone out of like all these bombs all over the place. We reveal the places like the family farmhouse. Which I love the fake animals, by the way, because one, we can't imply that he blew up all these animals, so we have like the fake little farm animals
Sure,
around
sure.
the place. Again, toys makes sense. So the place blows up. This is, by the way, TMS explosions were always like the best ones. So they saved them, they reused them every which way they can. So if you really freeze frame, sometimes you will see this explosion reused a lot. It's a really
Makes
it's a high
sense.
quality explosion.
Don't
All right,
want to waste a good explosion.
well, that's true. And all the time in the DC, they reused explosions for budgetary reasons. I think until Justice League Unlimited, they reused explosions.
Uh-huh.
All right, so the aftermath.
Yep.
So Lois is like, kind of this is where we get a little bit of the sympathy here. Like he was a sicko, Kent, but I can't help but feel a little bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
The Manheim shows up. He's learned nothing. Oh, he's a freak like his old man. Manheim, you really learned nothing about why any of this happened, did you? And then we end on a
I'm
very
looking forward
Batman.
to seeing him again for sure because he definitely seems like a fun foil.
I think you're really gonna like what happens to him.
Nice.
So, point being, Manheim, he's like, bluster here, and then we have that's one. His is one funeral I'll skip because he assumes he died in the explosion. So the cop shows up, says, "Oh, there's no body, but we found this." And I love the reveal. This feels so classic DCAU. Feels very Batman the animated series. Like the one time they get away with it, they pull out the evidence baggie and they have like the shattered like ventriloquist looking dummy head, the broken mask, and I love how Manheim looks creeped out by it. So, yes.
Yep. Yeah. Very good stuff there for sure.
Yeah. That's the episode.
All right. So yeah, Dragon, like I said, man, I am I just thoroughly enjoyed this one. Like I don't necessarily know if I would say it's like better than Last Son of Krypton Part 3 just because obviously that episode gave us that really incredible Lex scene, But like I will say just as kind of like a primer for what we're going to get going forward, if this is the indication of like the kind of silver aged antics that we're going to be getting, I'm all on board, man. I'm all on board. I think this is a great episode to kind of like just showcase exactly what this series is all about beyond just kind of like the Superman iconography that we already know.
Yeah, I mean, this episode was always a great mission statement for like what we can do with the Silver Age Superman without like again building blocks to a James Gunn Superman, like which is like full on diving into like all the wacky Silver Age stuff. This is like the '90s equivalent to that. This was like again going for a definitive Superman in which, as the DCU did with Batman, we want to incorporate the history of the character, but we need to change things to make compelling stories, and we need to really kind of like reinvent certain things. That's essentially what we did here, and it's not inaccurate to say we did our own slant on like very original slants on pretty much all the Superman villains. And we did reinventions, maybe not as radical as Toyman. Because Toyman, you compare this Toyman to like where he was in the comics before this. This is the most interesting Toyman. It's not really a lot. Not a lot there.
Sure.
So we we have some original characters coming up, and we have some just some really some really great takes that in my heart still honestly have still been like the definitive takes on these characters. So you're again, it only gets better from here, and this was always like the fun like mission statement. Like this is kind of what we're aiming to do with the villains, make them stand out and leave an impression. So but in a way that's not just Batman. So Toyman was like the most vestiges we had that's close to that, because again, how can you not? He's a twisted guy, uses gadgets that are toys, and he's a depraved maniac. But everyone else, though, we're going to go a little more sci-fi with it, but you'll see what happens. Point being,
Can you imagine if Sid from Toy Story had like a villain origin story like this?
Yeah, that's essentially you'd be worried. Think about this. Essentially, it's a Woody mask. If you put the hat on,
exactly. Oh god. It's like the whole so play nice thing.
Yeah.
Like fucking just twists him.
So he goes out there and he basically he's tormenting all the other Sids in the
neighborhood.
God. That's he's basically he's the it's like what if you had like a cast member like snap one day and just go door to door.
Oh man. Oh well, Dragon. I mean that honestly, not to get too political here as far as the Disney stuff goes, but like one of the reasons why my last trip to Disneyland turned me off as much as it did is because those poor cast members, man, they work so hard, but a lot of them just seemed like they were on their last fucking leg, Dragon. A lot of them felt like they could snap at any minute.
God.
Did I tell you this, Dragon? The fact that, like, and it still exists, the fact that, like, cast members at Disney now, every time they have to address a guest at all for any reason, they have to be, hello, friend.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that.
I fucking hate that so much. I hate it's so passive aggressive.
Oh, what's that they're told to do?
Yeah, but it's passive aggressive because they're told to do it, Dragon.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn it, yeah, I have to say that you're my friend, but you're not my friend. You're my fucking enemy.
Okay, it's a little much.
All right. That's the vibe I get from Disneyland.
Little much.
These days. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Code Geass. Honestly, Code Geass, I could see James Gunn pulling a Toyman. I really could.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So big thanks to Code Geass, Little Blue, and Teddy for joining us this fine evening. Dragon, give us a taste of the next one.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman, meddling in the affairs of Lex Luthor. Superman, impervious to every known element but one. Superman, battling history come to life on a Jurassic scale.
I'm sorry, we need a way. For some reason, I'm struggling with like when you're ending this. I'm terribly sorry.
It's in threes, Tiki. It's in threes.
It's in threes. Okay, that's it. That's the note I needed. That's the note I needed. I'm dense for not picking up on that. I am terribly sorry. On the next visit to the Fortress of Recaps with a little piece of home. Little boys shouldn't play with sharp objects.